Alright guys, Fulu coming to you with another video. Shout out to the whole LGBC. If you like the video, please feel free to like the video. And also, if you want to, please feel free to subscribe to this page. You're very welcome to. We're going to have a lot of things coming to this page, very soon. We're going to have more fights, of course, going to these fights, being at these fights. But we're going to have some other stuff too, man, for sure. Now, it looks like, I don't want to sound like a pessimist. This is a social issue video. I really don't want to sound pessimistic, but it's kind of hard to not sound pessimistic because I was looking at my Facebook read, and I was more interested in what was going on in Venezuela more than anything else, and of course Cuba as well. But I wasn't really tapped into what was going on in Bolivia. I knew a little bit about Bolivia. I knew the fact that since basically when the president legalized cocaine, I believe he legalized the consumption of cocoa leaf and things like that. I did notice that the DEA did leave that country. You know what I mean? That the DEA was out of there. And that cocaine production actually went down, but the consumption of it didn't really change at all. So I was like, okay. I also noticed that, I knew there were Afro-descended Bolivians. I knew that, but I also saw that they were gaining mobility under Evo Morales. I noticed that, Bolivia, I'm not too familiar with the country, but I do know it's a small country, and I do know that the majority of the country is indigenous from, what I see. But I also know that Bolivia, it had, with Evo Morales, it had its own version of socialism that he was practicing. Now, his version of socialism, from, what I heard, these are just the things that I hear. I heard that his version of socialism, basically, it led to the progress of the country. It led to things being done in the country. It led to higher literacy rates, and it led to the country being in a better place financially. Now I need to research more about it, but that's what I believe to be the case from one thing that my friend posted on on her Facebook, I should say. Now, I get news that now there's basically been a coup d'etat. That's basically what it was, and that Evo Morales resigned. Now, they're saying that the reason why there was so much pressure on him is because they said they couldn't verify elections. He said he would be willing to do more elections again. That's what he said he would do. He doesn't mind going at it again. The problem is that, even if it was fair elections, I hate to say it, and this is just gonna be what it is, and a lot of people are going to get offended, just like how a lot of people were offended with my video on the British tribe next door. Believe it or not, I'm still getting responses and comments to that video because they're so butthurt about it. But it is what it is, and I'm just gonna keep it a buck. That's just how I am. I'm gonna keep it a buck. Just like how I'm gonna say For example, I may do a video about like Broncos trying to Broncos trying to appropriate Funana, knowing damn well they don't have no rhythm with it, you know. But anyhow, let's stay on subject. So, you know, this coup d'etat, you know, is done by the right wing, because this is the thing. This is the whole thing you have to look at with right-wing governments in Latin America. Right-wing Latin American governments usually have the same characteristics that Europeans have, phenotypically, okay? And they have the same mentality of capitalism. They carry that mentality. They carry the dog-eat-dog mentality. Okay? And they carry the thing that if you say the S word, you're a communist, and if you do this, you're a threat to democracy, right? The bottom line is this, man. There are different versions of socialism. Every country is different. You know, every country has a different situation. Every country has similar histories, but they still kind of have different histories, you know? So you can't just like pigeonhole socialism into just one thing. You can't do that. You know, it's very much not fair to do that. You know, you pigeonholing like socialism. Okay? Because there have been articles, and I was surprised. There have been articles from Western publications that have said about Bolivia, a case for socialism that works. And they refer to Bolivia as a means of that example of socialism that works. So why do other socialisms not work? Probably because of this country's interference with their socialism, okay? That's the main reason why, okay? Because they want to interfere and they don't want to see it. Because here's the bottom line. When another country in the region sees that it works, right? Other people are going to catch on and be like, well, you know, it's working for them. Why can't it work for us? That's usually what happens. When they look at the example next door, they're like, well, you know, it's working for them. Progress is being made there. They look at this, and the powers that be here in America say, oh man, we can't have this happen. We got too much vested over there. And what I mean by they have too much vested over here is that they have a lot of like companies, a lot of American companies are in Latin America. They have a lot of like access to the resources of Latin America. And, you know, the elite of Latin America and the ones who have a stake in these things are very content with like the lower pecking order, meaning like usually the black population, usually the indigenous population. They're content with them getting the small side of the stick, you know, the short end of the stick. You know, they're content in letting that occur because, you know, you look at it and they're like, well, you know, we're making our money, you know, although this country is like sucking us dry of resources, although this country is sucking us dry of and turning us into a banana republic, we're still benefiting. The hell with the rest of the people in this country who aren't benefiting. You know, they can kick rocks, they can fall by the wayside. And so that's what's happening, you know. And the reason why, and this is just my view on this is just my perspective. The reason why the United States orchestrated this coup, the main reason why, is because the cocaine production was drying up. Because the thing is about this country is that it doesn't just want to rely on like Mexico for coke. It has to have different suppliers. And Bolivia used to be one of the key suppliers of coke. And so Evo Morales, you know, he was putting an end to that crap, you know, because the DEA wasn't in the country or anything like that. And so my perspective of that, I think that that's why the coup d'etat happened. That's one of the reasons. I don't think that it had anything to do with elections, because the fact that he was willing to do another election tells me that he wants to be transparent. That tells me that he was looking to be as fair as possible, you know. And so I don't think the media reporting like about it being like, oh, you know, the elections were not, how should I say it? The elections were not fair, and, you know, there was some discrepancy in the elections. I think that, you know, with that being said, that basically that was just a ploy for doing something that they were already planning on doing. They were already planning to overthrow Bolivia. You know, it was already in their minds to do that. You know, with elections or not, you know, this is what they were planning to do. And it's no surprise that, you know, as crazy as it sounds, you know, guess what their first target was? Guess what the right-wing stooges, their first target was when they did this? It was the Cuba and the Venezuelan embassy in Bolivia. So they're doing this as a means to like, it not only has to do with Bolivia, but it has to do with that whole sub-region that has a more leftist view rather than a right view, you know. That's what it has to do with, okay? They don't want this to spread. They don't want the Latin brand of socialism to spread. That's what it is, okay? That's what it really comes down to. You know, I mean, plenty of times America have called, like, you know, African countries who had like you know, socialist leanings, like they called it a Marxist virus, you know what I mean, and things of that nature. And when you look at like the you know, for example, there was a socialist by the name of Samora Machel who led the country of Mozambique, you know, and he was engaged, of course, in guerrilla warfare against the Portuguese, like Angola, like Guinea-Bissau, you know what I mean? And, you know, once he came into power, of course he wanted to impart socialism, you know, because that's what got him, that's what helped him progress thus far. And so, you know, South Africa, still being under apartheid, did not want those ideas to catch on to the South African blacks. So they pressured the hell out of Samora Machel. They put him in many uncompromising positions. And guess who they were backed by? The United States, of course. You know? For those of you guys who don't know, the United States supported apartheid. 110% did they support apartheid. And I'm talking about financially support apartheid. I'm talking about militarily support apartheid. I'm talking about all of that, you know? And that's just how it went, you know? And they will support, and they will continue to support these actions that of destabilization in the Latin American region by people that they are paying financially, militarily, you know, I want to say visually, because of the media smear campaigns that they make, you know, about these things, you know. So, you know, I hate to say it, but, you know, I'm really hoping that this coup d'etat that we witnessed, that it does not create, you know, a domino effect, and that, you know, the progressive, like, socialist governments of Latin America do not falter and do not fall by the wayside. Because I'm thinking also the reason why they did this is because they're trying to get it so it can spread to Venezuela, you know, because, you know, Venezuela has still been holding its ground despite the fact that, you know, there's been coup attempts, there's been like people trying to orchestrate regime change there and everything like that, you know, but I think they've still like managed to hold their ground, you know, despite all the sanctions, despite all the, basically the blockade that, you know, this country has made and things like that. And yeah, that's it, you know. We just gotta wait and see what happens. But again, this coup d'etat is no coincidence. It didn't just happen organically. This coup d'etat is basically, for sure, 110% a United States orchestrated, funded, and financed coup d'etat in order to inspire regime change, in order to take control of the things of Bolivia that it has, mainly being the coca leaf. That's all I got for now, guys. Leave your thoughts, leave your comments. Full of signing out. I'm John Rama.